saddle in India and across the world. And the forum of the WEF is just the right time to kickstart our WEF conversations. Amit Kalyani of Bharat Forge needs no introduction, joins us right now.
I need it.
Hi, Amit. Great having you. And
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here.
bitterly cold outside. I'm glad we're inside.
Yes.
So it's bitterly cold in terms of the economic prospects around the world as well, so to say, at least on the Western side, and a lot of areas where your businesses are there. So how do you juxtapose what's happening around the world, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, versus the business decisions that you have to take over the course of the next 5 years?
So, well, there are two things. One is you have to look at the mega trends and the direction in which a lot of our consumer segments are going. So, whether you talk about automotive, which is completely going, electric and green, to industrial, which is seeing a big growth in India and in certain new sectors, largely in mass transportation, etc. And of course, growth markets like aerospace, defense, which is a market which has opened up in India, and e-mobility, which is a big growth opportunity both as an Indian market and a global market. So we look at each of our businesses both as local market and global market. Being financially, resilient, technologically strong, and having great customer relationships and very close, working with them provides you opportunities both in good and bad times.
Mhm.
So I think you just have to keep your ear to the ground, be close to your customers, and focus on what you can do, and try to adjust to the changes taking place around you. It's all you can do, really.
Yeah. No, but okay, let me ask this in a different way. Would some capacity expansion decisions or product innovation decisions, would they get pushed back a little bit because of what is happening in the West and your vision of how demand could get impacted if in 2023, if not ahead?
See, right now, Europe, we are seeing very strong demand.
Interesting.
Yeah, on the commercial vehicle side, and in the US also, the commercial vehicle demand is very strong and likely to remain strong because there's a huge replacement market which is going to come up in the year 23. On the pass car side, a lot of our customers are constrained with capacity of supply chain, so they are producing below their you know stated capacities. So within that, you have to adjust your product portfolio to make sure that you're able to supply the products that they are making. And because we're a platform supplier, pretty much what we supply goes into number of different models. So at a platform level, you're fine. But the second question you asked, which is about innovation, I think that has to get accelerated,
Mhm.
because how do you reduce cost? How do you lightweight? How do you become greener? So if you see some of the things that we've been doing in terms of investments, in terms of acquisitions, in terms of R&D, have been focused on where is it that we have opportunity to grow, where can we sell more to our consumers. So for example, the whole getting into castings business, the iron and steel castings, has been a complete complementarity, because that business globally is even larger than the forging business. So we have just gotten into that, and now we've made an acquisition,
Mm.
a second one which will happen soon, which will take our capacity to, you know, almost 140, 150,000 tons of melting, about 100,000 tons of output, and that's only the start. We believe that sectors like those will provide our industrial business very strong growth going forward, double digit growth, and allow us to move from making only components to making subsystems, because a subsystem that goes into these kind of vehicles is a combination of forgings and machining with engineering, which is what going to be the next step, which will be the post 25 26 kind of step for us.
Okay. And Amit, when you think of these things and kind of contextualize it with the fact, as Howard Marks spoke to us recently and talk about this being a decade of sea change, wherein we've had 3 decades of easy money coming in, liquidity may not be as easy, so to say. Does that have any bearing on the quantum of capacity expansion that businesses like yours might normally do versus they might do now?
So so the easy money affects growth, but we are also growing because we're taking share away from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Please remember that as a company, we're about 1.4, 1.5 billion. Okay. There are companies in the automotive supply chain which are 50, 60 billion. Okay. and the overall addressable market size between all the things we do is unlimited. So for us to grow, there are three levers. One is India growth,
Mm-hmm.
which will continue to grow. The new products and technologies we've gotten into, which will provide growth, and taking away market share or taking away, let's say value capture from other players or even from OEMs wanting to outsource. So there's plenty of opportunity to grow. So our growth will be largely done in India and in North America as far as investments are concerned, because those are the markets where we see tremendous growth on new products, new technologies, and where we can play a meaningful role.
Okay. And I wanted to come to autos in the end, but since we brought it up, I'll just kind of wrap up the auto conversation with this.
Sure.
Then I'll move on to Vision 2030 as well. But I heard you mention this, and somebody else has also mentioned this to us, that even Europe, which may be in the throes of a recession slash slowdown, will actually see heavy demand for the forging side because the CV replacement cycle is going to be strong. I heard you mention that. You're saying Europe will also actually not just sail through, but actually deliver growth in 2023.
See, Europe is always in Europe when you see very significant growth. So it's very dry. Um, is not You don't see the 25-30% annual growth between a lean year and a strong year in Europe. You see a 15% growth, whereas in the US the swings are much greater. But it's looking apparent that a lot of growth is going to happen in Europe because also of the change in transportation of some critical goods which used to come either by sea or by pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
are now coming through other means.
Okay.
So, and also different routes from where raw materials and supplies are coming into Europe. So that needs a lot more trucking
Hmm.
because rail capacity cannot be built immediately. Roads are available. So increase in inputs or imports into Europe from close by or into mainland Europe, into the big 4 or 5 geographies,
Sure.
is going to provide more boost to transportation
Plus the replacement demand.
plus the replacement demand.
Very interesting. Okay, now a bit about what your next couple of days might look like here, simply because the mood over the last, say, 36 hours that I've been here, there's a lot of chatter around India. Your meetings, I mean, we're just starting off, but
Yeah.
your meetings that might be scheduled, are there a lot about the varied businesses that you are in? And is there a clamor for Indian companies, clients wanting to meet them? You in particular?
So yeah, so I have a lot of meetings with our automotive customers because mainly if you look at our businesses, the automotive business is the one where we have clients all over the world. Plus, I'm part of the automotive governors, so a lot of my sessions are around manufacturing and automotive,
Mm-hmm.
supply chain, energy, green, etc. So I do have a lot of meetings there. If you look at defense is it's a B2G business. Countries
True.
buy this, individuals don't buy this. So I don't have any meetings around that because this is not the forum for that either.
Sure.
We do have meetings with prospective partners, with people who we are working in other geographies. I can't name anything, but
Of course.
you always look at new opportunities, new geographies, and meet people who have synergies and complementarities that you can work with, and win-win for both.
Okay. So
So
since you invoke defense, while it's B2G, um, since the Russia-Ukraine conflict broke out, I presume there is a lot of talk around more and more defense sourcing, defense capabilities.
yeah.
Where does your company fit into it, both India and abroad?
So currently our business is largely in India, and we do have a good
Ah,
amount of export business that we have won. We haven't started exporting anything,
hmm.
but none of our business is in any of the conflict zones. So we are not exporting to any place which has an active conflict going on. That's consciously something that we are not doing. But what it has made people realize is that they need to create new sources because a lot of sources are either getting depleted or destroyed, and in that light people are looking at new long term relationships to secure their long term future.
This is the G part, which is looking to do this from
Yes,
private
yes,
vendors.
yes. And I must say the Indian government, the MEA, is really supporting and facilitating this by encouraging foreign companies to understand better what is happening in India, what Indian companies can do, and how they can benefit from it. So right from the Def Expo to visits of various government military people to India to obviously with the government of India and to private companies, is taken off in a big way.
Interesting. Okay, so all the best for that.
Thank you.
Talk us about or aerospace as well. I've read you intend to move up the value chain meaningfully. Where is it right now? Where does it go to?
Yeah, so we started aerospace with making simple components, just
Hmm.
forgings, which we make using existing equipment. Then we got into fully machined products. Now we're moving into assemblies. So gradually, as we keep going ahead, we're not going to make aircraft for sure. Okay, but we will make what enables an aircraft industry or supports the, let's say, supply chain of a aerospace industry in India. So we're already working with HAL on all their programs, a lot of future programs as well, including a lot of MRO work that they are unable to get from outside now.
Mhm.
So a lot of those are being made in India by us. So we're making, landing gears, wheels, structural components, and even things like APUs, etc. So these are pretty challenging and complex products. But because we have a whole turbo machinery division, it allows us to laterally move into this. And of course, the government and the Air Force or the Navy are very supportive. They really are going an extra mile in helping and hand holding, and we have access to their labs so that you can test your products, which is really remarkable. This is something that never happened for the last 75 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does such a business move? I mean, is there a step up impact that comes in at some point of time, or is it a gradual linear
So,
growth?
for a long time, our aerospace business was very small. So, I have always mentioned that the first milestone is to get to 100 plus million. And I'm
Hmm.
fairly certain that, in a year and a half to 2 years, we'll be in excess of that.
Okay.
And then, you can, once you get to those kind of figures, even 20-25% growth a year in 3-4 years, it takes you to a fairly sizable number. And then you have enough critical mass
Hmm.
that you can either bid for a big new project or you can take over some program from someone. So all that can happen.
Okay.
and
Last
and
word.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
pain in parts of the automotive aerospace supply chain also, because not all the aerospace companies are doing well.
Mhm.
People have had challenges around technology certifications, etc., etc. So a lot of people are also impacted.
Okay.
And on top of that, India is buying so many aircraft, I'm talking about commercial, that the offsets now are a huge opportunity. So if you combine offset opportunity with pain in the value chain, that's a very big tailwind also.
No? Great. Good to know that. Um, One thing that I noticed here, standing outside the India lounge for the last 2 hours, at least four people came up to me and spoke to me, and
Hmm?
three of those four were in the EV space.
Hmm.
In some sub-segment of the whole EV drive that India is doing or the world is doing at large. Now, you've spoken to me about a couple of quarters ago about the exciting things that you are doing.
Yeah.
Could you talk a bit about this? It's the right platform.
Yeah. So in EV, we're doing multiple things, but largely I would look at supply chain and then EV for India. So supply chain is at a global level. It's both in India, it's outside India. So we supply to Tata, we supply to Mahindra, we supply to other companies. We supply to companies in US, in Europe, in China, and we supply to both the traditional OEMs which are transitioning to hybrid and EV vehicles, and to the EV startups.
Hmm.
And then in India, we have a product portfolio which is separate from a product portfolio anywhere else, which is for the 2 and 3 wheelers, where we supply battery cases, motor housings, gearboxes, etc., for the 2 and 3 wheeler market in India. And I believe that the biggest growth in India is going to come from the 2 and 3 wheeler sector, because that is a sector where commercially it makes a lot of sense for the user, because they save a lot of money.
Yeah.
The other area where you'll see a lot of growth is coming from buses, but that's driven by government procurement and state transports or the municipal transport, and to fleets.
Okay. So the simple question that comes to mind is, and after that, I'll want to understand from your vision 2030. But before that, your business and multiple businesses that you run, right? A clutch of supply chain led inputs, a lot of transportation outside, and again that involves shipping, supply chain, so on and so forth. The last 24 months have been, for lack of a better word, fractured.
Yes.
Are things easing out? Are you hopeful of some more easing, or is it difficult to predict?
So you mentioned about the stress in the last 24 months. I'm very happy to say that we have not missed one single shipment or delivery out of India. We have not starved a single customer of ours because of the supply chain and logistics from India. I think actually Indian companies and our partners on the logistics side have been really exceptional in helping us manage this period very well. Um, so you mentioned varied businesses. So what we did is over the last 12 months, we have now transitioned our company from one monolithic entity
Mm-hmm.
into five verticals run by five business heads.
Okay.
And they are now in the next 6 to 12 months, they will become like virtual companies. So they have everything from HR, finance, accounting, R&D, engineering, all within. Some of them are shared services because the whole direction, the corporate, procurement, finance obviously has to be shared. R&D also, some of it is shared, some of it is bespoke. But what this allows, it gives you sharper focus, narrower focus, allows the business unit to be much more customer aligned and much more agile. And that is the direction that we're going to go into right now. In the next 2 years we'll get these verticals fully speeded up, and you're transitioning from one structure to another, and then they will move into the next step of growth, which is how do you move from components into subsystems, systems, and services. So that's going to be the next direction.
So, final question. In 2030, you hope each of these five verticals could individually become the size of the current automotive business, so to say?
So I don't know about every one of them,
Every one of them,
but
sure.
I think at least I would say two to three of them should be have the potential to be
Of the current automotive
of the
size.
current of the current automotive. See, Bharat Forge is 40% industrial today,
Hmm.
60% automotive. So definitely has the size to be definitely the size of the automotive.
Hmm.
Maybe some of them will even be the size of our current business.
Got it. And sorry, actually, I'll rephrase. That was my last
Yeah.
question. My last question is this: you're doing a set of interesting things in order to accelerate the growth, right? I've heard you on a forum talk about how green steel enables you to kind of move or become more competitive. Maybe not just you, but the space at large. There are other tie-ups that you might be doing which are helping you do that. This whole aluminum business is a lot spoken about. Just wrap up this conversation
Yeah.
with that.
So, you know, in some way, we're trying to demystify things like green manufacturing. So, we've been using renewable energy in our plants for the last 30 years.
Okay.
Okay, today 30% of our energy is renewable. One of our steel mills is now 100% on renewable energy. So that one plant will get fully converted to make only green steel by next year. Already we have almost 30% of that plant running on green steel. By next year it will be 100% green, which means 250 to 300,000 tons of very SBQ, specialty bar quality, which is high-end steel used in automotive, aerospace, and other applications, will be completely green. What this will do is it will allow us to create a brand and support those customers who want to also take a leap in being green through their value chain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not just for us, but as a company making green steel, it is also good for Indian suppliers to take a lead in being green. See, I think we have a very big advantage in India that our cost of renewable energy is the cheapest in the world. We don't need subsidies for renewable energy. So, if you can take advantage of that and create a lead both psychologically and on the product side, there's nothing like it.
Wish you all the best for that.
Thank
and
you.
all the best at the WEF as well, Amit. And thanks for speaking to us today.
Pleasure.
And viewers, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.